Your party has left Riverguard Keep, and you're following the dark stream north and west into the heart of the Desserin Hills. As you pull the boat up the shallow water, everything is dark. The water doesn't smell brackish. It smells fresh, but it's very still. Everything is very quiet. Suddenly, a very dim glow begins to appear ahead. And as you approach, you notice, by contrast, this glow is in a large open cavern that expands out from the banks of the river. And you get there, you can see in the gloom a ancient dwarven city, now seeming abandoned. Suddenly, the rogue's breath catches, and you turn to see her pointed in a direction. You look to where she's pointing, and you see a terrible sight. A soldier with a lance appears to be riding a giant shark, and it's coming right at your boat. What are you going to do? Hey everybody, welcome to Lore Friday for October 9th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Galabond, and this is Temple of the Crushing Wave. What I've described to you might be one way that you would first encounter the Temple of the Crushing Wave if you are playing through the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign, or if your DM has dropped this adventure into a homebrew game. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this adventure, shall we? Temple of the Crushing Wave is a 7th level adventure. And as we said before when we were looking at the Temple of Howling Hatred, the temples are all in quadrants of the city of Tyre Bessel, an ancient dwarven city. As you can see here, when we were looking at Temple of Howling Hatred, that was this southwest quadrant. Now today we're looking at the southeast quadrant. And this little arm of a river here is the one that goes out to the Riverguard Keep and the Desserin River. And this kind of lagoon area here is where you might encounter a cultist soldier riding on a specially trained shark. Very interesting indeed. The underground temple is about 2 miles inland from the river. And there are opportunities you can make rolls as the party is going through the river, and there's random encounter possibilities with just sort of normal underground denizens. I mean, there's dark mandals and piercers, troglodytes and shadows, and even a water weird. So, you have that to contend with before you even get here. The lake landing, there's a little area here. There's a quay with some steps from the water that lead into this area C4. Otherwise, with the exception of this beach and the exception of places like right here where there's some steps and here where there's some steps, all of these ledges are about 5 feet above the surface of the water. So it would be a little bit of a climb to get up into those areas. So, Eon is the name of the crushing or the dark tide knight that has the hunter shark mount, and she's very suspicious of people unless somehow uh, they can convince her that they are part of the cult. So maybe if they've attacked the Riverguard Keep and have some of the cultist garb or know some of the cultist lingo, they might be able to pass themselves off as cultists. Uh, there's also within these canals, um, there's a bunch of aquatic creatures. These include everything from aquatic ghouls and aquatic trolls to a giant octopus and even a dragon turtle. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not quite sure how a dragon turtle is going to fit through some of these smaller canals. Uh, and according to the story, the dragon turtle lives here in this C21 area, but it seems a bit of a stretch for it to go through here. So you're the DM, it's your game. You do what you want with that. Um, but as for me, it's like okay, I would have to figure out some reason how and why that dragon turtle got there. All right, Whisper Lake is what this area here is called, and it's the highest. The dome ceiling is the highest of anywhere, and a giant octopus lives uh, in this area in a little grotto to the south that is hidden by the legend. So, kind of in this area here is where the giant octopus lives. But if it senses people in here and if they look like they are um, that it can take them, it will go ahead and attack them. And it will attack any creatures swimming or in a boat that approach within 30 feet. There are some um, areas over here in C4 called drowning chambers. Each of these little circular areas is a pool that is, what is it? Is it 10 feet deep, and they ceremonially drown captives. And there's aquatic ghouls that are in this area, and they uh, are former victims. But what they'll do to attack is they'll attack to paralyze. Then once they paralyze, they will try to tether a character to one of these big 50-pound rocks and throw it into one of the pools and pull the character down under the water to drown it. So that's really kind of insidious. Uh, so you could have your party members one by one get paralyzed and then get drowned, and that would end your adventure real quick. Then there's also like a little jail area over here, uh, C5. Uh, there's there's no there's no prisoners in there right now, but you know the party has a few bad rolls go against them, they may wind up becoming prisoners themselves. All right. There's a bridge, and there's barracks now that are um, home to some of the cultists. So this area over here has some cultists living there. The Crushing Wave Reavers, those are CR 1/2, so they're kind of low level, and Crushing Wave Priests, CR 2, so they're a little bit more powerful. Then there's grain silos. empty, of course, because there hasn't been any activity here in, uh, you know, 1,000 years or so. So these are 30 feet deep, and it says the way the module is written, or the way the adventure is written, it says that these are areas that could be safe for the party to stay, but they would have to remember that, oh yeah, if you go stumbling around in here, there could be a 30-foot drop um, if you're not careful. So that is um, that. There's a guard post to the north here. Uh, and this kind of helps to watch the passage that goes north up to the Temple of the Black Earth, uh, and they just kind of want to make sure that they're not having incursions from these other temples, because while they all serve the Elder Elemental Eye, um, the eye tends to like to have the elements in conflict with each other. And so the cults that follow them also are in conflict with each other. So that's one of the subplots about this whole thing is, if you're that kind of party, or if you're that kind of DM that has those kind of players, you can see if they can't go around and sort of um, set the different cultists against each other in this area here. There's a one-eyed shiver, which is a little bit more powerful, and then again your dark tide knight, and more of the reavers, which are those one half. And you're finally starting to get some magical treasure. So there's potion of greater healing. There's some other stuff. There is a gargoyle fountain here in C10. Now, unlike some of the other adventures, there's not an actual gargoyle, but this water does carry a blessing. And if you drink straight from the pool, it will give the characters the benefits of a short rest. However, if you put the water in a water skin and carry it out of here, it just doesn't go bad in terms of it won't make anybody sick, but it just kind of becomes plain water and loses um, those magical properties. So if you want to take a short rest without spending the time to take it, you can come in here and drink from the pool, but you have to drink from the pool in this room. There's also some Nothics that are in here, so some enemies. And now there's some it's Court of the Merfolk. So C11 Court of the Merfolk is over. Oh, come on, where the heck are you? Fudge factor. C9, C10. C11, right here. So there's a little plaza here in the middle. And there are some aquatic trolls in C12 down in this area that they live in here. And of course, those aquatic trolls, they actually are in service to a hag, and they are not the brightest bulbs on the tree. So you can actually have your party sort of trick them by either claiming to be with the cult or giving them some sort of plausible reason for them being there, and the trolls will probably buy it. Okay, so then then we have lizard folk that are in here. Now, one of the interesting dynamics about this about this particular cult is that there are non-human humanoids led by this hag, and there are human cultists that are led by uh, Gar Shatterkeel. And Gar Shatterkeel is currently the leader of the cult of elemental water. However, the the hag wants to take over. So there is a potential that you could also sow dissension between the members of the Temple of the Crushing Wave by playing off the monstrous humanoid members of the cult against the human members of the cult. So the lizard folk live over here in C13, and they take affront to any intrusion into their space, and they will attack unless you have a really, really, really darn good reason. But they'll usually attack first and ask questions later. Okay, then we have the hag herself. Um, the sea hag named Thaluna. So she's a CR2, and she has some ogres that are her bodyguards. So you have to deal with her and the bodyguards. The bodyguards live out here in this area, and during daytime hours they are active. Uh, the hag mostly stays in her quarters in here. At nighttime they're all asleep, so the ogres don't really guard anything at night. Okay, so then Dragon Bridge. There is a dragon bridge, and there's another aquatic troll under that bridge over here at C15. So that troll will ask questions of people going over. Now we get to the fun part. What dwarven city would be complete without a brewery? And yes, here we have one, C16. But these copper tubs are no longer filled with ale, which has been, because it's been centuries since there's been any dwarves here to brew it. But several of them do have water weirds inside, and so if people go and pry the lid off of one that is full, they will get attacked by a water weird. Then we go into Morbeth's workshop. Morbeth is a one-eyed shiver, so that's one of the higher-ranking cultists, and he's got a few magical items. Plus, he's got several reavers that serve as his personal guard. And he's very full of himself, this Morbeth is. Very prickly and proud, and quick to air his grievances. He doesn't like the fact that Gar Shatterkeel is a mere druid, and he hates the fact that a sea hag is second in command. He thinks they are both beneath him and he should be in charge. So this is yet another wedge that a clever party could use to drive between the members of the cult. Now, of course, over here, there's a western guard gate because you have to guard against the tricksters from the Howling Hatred cult, the cult of elemental air. That would be bad to let them come in. All right, and then the Lakeshore 19, of course, here is where there are some boats. Now, these boats are all about a century old, but and two of them are in really bad repair. One of them is in pretty good repair, and by scavenging parts from the other two, you can quickly repair it, I think in about an hour. And then there's a gate that blocks passage to the Howling Hatred portion of the ruins. Then there's a lake up here that has our dragon turtle in it. And the dragon turtle is, as you would expect, the most difficult encounter in the entire area. The roof of this cavern is covered with little splotches of bioluminescent lichen. So when you go in here, it describes it being kind of like starlit, a starlit ceiling. So it looks kind of like there are stars shining down into the water. Now, it's uh, a young dragon turtle. So it's got only 220 hit points. But still, if you've been fighting other things and you're starting to get low on resources, the last thing you want to do is run into a dragon turtle. Because they can really mess your day up. The dragon turtle is kind of impressionable and is quite young, so the um, the uh, uh, the dragon turtle doesn't attack unless it sees people fighting the cultist, but it is very curious, and like all draconic creatures, it loves treasure. So you can potentially appease it by giving it something and making it think that you are members of the cult. Perhaps you could even trick it into thinking you are its allies, and if cultists fight you, maybe it would think that they are the ones that are the invaders and not you. So, very interesting. Now, of course, there's a modest treasure. It's not any kind of mother lode that is here for treasure, but it's underwater. So you have to wind up diving down and getting the treasure if that's what you want. There's a large market area here from when it was an active dwarven city. And there's a bunch of supplies and trade goods. Now, these are the supplies and trade goods that the Riverguard Keep cultists have raided from ships on the Desserin River. And they're keeping these supplies here because they believe that when when the great uh, floods come and everything, they're going to need to have all of their provisions. So there's a fathomer and several cultists here that are kind of all inventorying the stuff, so you can mess up their counts royally and make them start all over again after they're dead if your party comes in and deals with them. There's more reavers and cultists in the galley or uh, the refectory area over here. Then there's another bridge of heroes. So yes, there's our bridge of heroes up here, and it heads up north into the actual temple proper. So there's a glyph of warding on the outer doors. And there are some lizard folk guards. And there's a chance that Gar Shatterkeel is here. That chance is if your party is coming to the actual temple of the Crushing Wave, before they go to any of the other temples, you will find Gar Shatterkeel here. If you go to one of the other temples and deal with them before you come here, then something has caused Gar to leave here and go to the Fane of the Eye. And I think that is true for all of the cultists. Then there is a treasure vault. Treasure vault is over here of 26, and it's all up on this ledge. So again, it's kind of a modest treasure. It's not huge amounts. It's certainly not going to be a Monty Hall, but there are some useful items in there, as well as some gold and uh, valuable items. All right, then we have our priest quarters. Priest quarters is over here in C27. They are the ones who tend to the temple and hold services there. And last but not least, there are the stairs that lead down to the Fane of the Eye. This is guarded by a Mezzoloth. And the Mezzoloth is a CR5 evil demon, and it will pose riddles to the PCs, and if the PCs answer incorrectly, it will attack them. If they do answer correctly, we'll allow the PC safe passage to go in here and go down these stairs towards the Temple of the Elemental Eye. All right. Well, that is kind of a summary of the adventure. The nice thing is that most of the monsters in here are all humanoids. There are a few specialized monsters that can easily be swapped out for other things. So you can put this as an underground. You can either make it a standalone thing, or you can make it part of a larger complex like it is in this book, and drop it in a homebrew campaign with something that sort of is a Underdark related or underground related adventure. So whether you're doing something to kind of clean out an old stronghold for the dwarves, or whether you are trying to get through the Underdark and occasionally you come across these areas where it looks like there's habitation and you have to deal with everything that's there, whatever the case may be. So if you're using a homebrew game, it's very flexible for dropping that in. I do love the map on this. I think it's kind of cool, the mix of a lot of water area to have water encounters, as well as, some areas for what you would normally think of as outdoor encounters, and then constructed interior rooms so that you can have more like close quarters encounters as well. And like I said, it's balanced and tuned for 7th level. And the way they get away with doing that for 7th level is that they have downscaled that dragon turtle to a CR10 monster. So I don't think you're supposed to throw a whole lot of things at the party when they're dealing with that dragon turtle, but they could probably fight a couple of cultists along with the dragon turtle if they absolutely had to. All right, well, that is going to do it for our review of the Temple of the Crushing Wave. I have been DM Galabond. This has been Lore Friday. If you like everything that we're doing here on this channel, please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, click the post notification bell so that you'll get notified every time new content drops on the channel. And with that, I would like to simply thank everybody for watching, and thank you for tuning in later during the week. Hello, future people, and we will talk to you later. Take care, everyone.